She hadn't eaten in days. Her ribs showed through her skin, but when a speeding truck came charging toward her puppies, she didn't run. She stood there, between danger and her babies. And what happened next? You won't believe it. This isn't just another dog rescue story. This is a story about a starving mother, a heartless road, and a stranger who made a decision that would change everything. It's raw, it's real, and it will hit you right in the heart. So grab a tissue, because this story might just change how you look at animals forever. It was one of those scorching summer days, where the asphalt felt like it could melt the bottom of your shoes. The kind of day where even the toughest animals hide in the shade, and the wind, if it comes at all, feels like it's blowing straight from an oven. The kind of heat that makes the world feel slower, heavier, silent, and right in the middle of that unbearable heat, where the air shimmered like glass and the concrete burned like coals, she was there. She didn't belong. Not in that place. Not like that. A skinny, brown mother dog. Her ribs stuck out so sharply that it looked painful. Her fur was dusty, matted in places, and full of burrs. She lay motionless, except for her slow, shallow breathing, curled protectively around a litter of tiny puppies. 5 of them, maybe 6. It was hard to see through the shadows of her body, all tucked tightly under her, barely larger than her paw. The dogs were just off the side of a highway, not a quiet country road. No, this was a 6-lane monster, where cars zoomed past like they were running from something. People in a rush, no one looking, no one noticing. But there she was, not by choice, not because she wanted attention or pity. She was there because she had nowhere else to go. And her babies? They couldn't move. Their eyes weren't open. Their legs couldn't support them. Without her, they wouldn't last an hour. The noise was deafening. Trucks blaring, horns honking, engines roaring, and that smell, hot rubber, exhaust, and something else, something foul. She had picked the only piece of shade available, barely cast by a broken road sign. It wasn't much, but it was all she had, and she never left them. People passed, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Cars, motorbikes, vans. Windows rolled up, air conditioners blasting. No one saw her, or maybe they did and just didn't care. There was no water bowl, no scraps of food, just dust and danger. You might wonder why she didn't move, why she didn't at least try to drag her puppies somewhere safer. But here's the truth, she couldn't. Her body was too weak, her legs shook when she stood, and even if she had the strength, there was nowhere safe to go. The city can be cruel like that, but even in her state, starving, exhausted, probably in pain, she remained their shield. A bird flew overhead, and she flinched. A tire screeched a few feet away, and she growled. Every time something came too close, she tensed like a coiled spring, ready to defend, ready to sacrifice. That's what made it worse. Not the heat, not the hunger, but her silence. She didn't bark, she didn't cry, she didn't even whimper. It was as if she knew no one was coming. But what if someone had seen? What if someone had noticed her there days ago? Did they just keep walking? Did they think, it's just a stray, someone else will help? How long had she been there? A day? 2? 3? No one knew. No one asked. But her body told the story. She was running on nothing but willpower and motherly instinct. Her milk was running dry. Her eyes were red from dust and exhaustion. Her paws were cracked. One was even bleeding. And still, she never moved. That's when the real horror set in. Because with every hour that passed, the sun moved higher, the shade grew smaller, and the highway got busier. Danger crept closer, foot by foot. At one point, a puppy squirmed a little too far. Its tiny leg wriggled into the hot gravel, close to the road. The mother panicked. She used the last bit of strength. She had to nudge it back. Her body shook from the effort, but she did it. Then she lay back down, guarding them again, as if her bones were made of steel. The sun reached its peak. No clouds, no breeze, not a drop of relief. That's when the smells changed. The garbage nearby began to rot. The heat intensified. The world blurred, and the mother dog began to fade. She blinked slower. Her chest rose and fell more faintly. Her eyes stayed half open, locked on the highway, but there was a daze in them now. She was losing the fight, and still she didn't move. That's when something happened. A black car slowed down, just a little. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a moment, but it was the first time a car had done anything other than speed past. The driver turned their head, eyes locked with the mother's for a fraction of a second, and then the car kept going. Gone. Hope flickered and vanished. More hours passed. The puppies whimpered softly now. Their tiny bodies shifted restlessly, searching for warmth, for milk. But the mother was no longer able to respond. She was still alive, but barely. There's a silence that comes before the worst. When everything goes still, that moment arrived. Even the traffic noise seemed to blur. The sky darkened slightly, not from clouds, but from the growing weight of reality. She wasn't going to last much longer. And then something unbelievable happened. That same black car, it came back. It pulled over. The door opened slowly. A pair of worn shoes stepped out. A man, mid-30s maybe. No flashy clothes, no camera, just a man with a quiet face and tired eyes. He crouched. She growled. Weak, dry, but it was a growl. Protective until the end. The man didn't flinch. He didn't speak. He just looked at her. Then he reached into his car, pulled out a towel, a bottle of water, a small packet of biscuits. He sat down, right there, in the dirt, in the sun. No rush, no panic. He poured water into the cap and pushed it gently toward her. At first, she didn't move. Then her nose twitched, her tongue flicked, and she drank. A tiny sip, then another. The man waited. He opened the biscuits, broke them into crumbs, held them out. She sniffed. A nibble. The puppies stirred. One of them squealed. The man moved slowly, gently, touched the nearest puppy, picked it up. The mother's eyes widened, but she didn't growl. She watched, and for the first time, she let someone in. The man made a call. Short, quiet, then waited. An hour later, another car showed up. This one had crates in the back. A woman stepped out. Gentle hands, calm voice. Together, they moved the puppies. Then, very carefully, they lifted the mother. She was too weak to resist. And that was the beginning of everything changing. But what led up to that? Why did the man come back? What did he see in that moment when he drove by? What made him stop when no one else did? That's what we'll explore next. Let's rewind a little. A few weeks earlier, this dog, who we'll call Luna, wasn't lying next to a death trap of a road. She was part of a small, scrappy pack of strays living on the outskirts of the city, near an old junkyard. The pack stuck together loosely, scavenging in alleys and behind restaurants, fighting over scraps, dodging humans, and avoiding dog catchers. Life was hard, but it was a kind of rough, shared survival. But then Luna got pregnant. At first, the others tolerated her slower pace. But hunger makes animals cruel, and weakness isn't welcome when survival's on the line. Luna found herself left behind more often. Growls replaced greetings. Nips turned to bites. One day, she limped back to the junkyard and found the others had moved on without her. Not even a howl goodbye, just gone. So she wandered alone. Her belly grew, her strength shrank. Her paws cracked from walking mile after mile on broken pavement and scorching roads. She scoured bins, but most were locked or empty. She'd sniff outside restaurants, only to be chased off by shouts and stones. She started recognizing the angry faces. The man who always tossed a bucket of water. The woman who kept a stick by her door. But she didn't stop, because something deep inside her kept whispering, "Keep going. They need you." She eventually found a patch of quiet, an abandoned construction site hidden behind a wall of concrete slabs and rusting pipes. It wasn't much, but it was hidden, dry, and out of sight. That's where she gave birth. 7 pups, 7 tiny, blind, squeaking lives. Their fur was patchy, their bodies fragile, but to Luna, they were perfect. In those first days, she barely moved. Her body ached, but she stayed curled around them, licking them clean, warming them with what little heat her thin body could provide. Hunger gnawed at her, but she ignored it. When she did leave, just for moments, it was to find food. But the city had no kindness to spare. Once, she found half a hot dog. She carried it back in her jaws, tore it into 7 tiny bits, and watched them squirm to suckle on her or nibble at what they could. She didn't eat any of it, not one bite. But safety doesn't last. Within a week, the construction site roared back to life. Workers returned. Machines grumbled. The ground shook. One day, a crane operator nearly backed over their slab shelter. It was no longer safe. So Luna did what only a mother could. She moved them, one by one, in her mouth, gently, like delicate glass. She searched all night, nose twitching, heart pounding, until she found a new place. Not ideal, but it had to do. A storm drain near a busy road. It was loud, dangerous. The rumble of trucks shook the ground, but it was dry, shaded, and hidden from most eyes. She laid them down inside the mouth of the drain, curled her body to block the wind, and waited. Every day, she'd venture out, timing the traffic, darting behind bushes, scanning for anything edible. She learned which houses tossed scraps, and which ones chased her. Some days she returned with a crust of bread, other days, nothing. And still she fed them. They grew louder, hungrier. Their eyes began to open. Their tiny legs began to wobble. She worried constantly. One day, a teenager on a bike saw them and threw a rock, laughing when it hit her side. She didn't fight back. She simply moved her body between him and the drain. And then the worst. It was early morning. Luna was licking the smallest pup, trying to warm him up. The sun had just risen. A motorcycle zipped past. Too fast. The vibration startled one of the pups. He wriggled, squirmed, and before she could stop him, rolled right into the open. Time stopped. She lunged. Her paws scraped asphalt. Her body moved on pure instinct. She threw herself over him, barking so loud it echoed across the road. The biker swerved. Tires screeched. He missed them barely, but cursed and kept riding. She didn't care. The pup was safe. She carried him back in her mouth, trembling. For hours, she didn't move. Just held them closer, tighter. After that, she never truly slept again. Her ears twitched with every noise. Her eyes flickered open at every gust of wind. Even the silence made her nervous. At night, she'd stare at the moon as if asking for help. During the day, she'd scan every passing car, every person on the sidewalk, hoping, desperately, that someone might see them, might care. But days passed, then a week. No one stopped. She grew thinner. Her fur became patchy. A wound opened near her shoulder, maybe from the biker's mirror, maybe from crawling under fences, but it never healed. Still she stayed, because those 7 little hearts, they were her everything. And then, on a day much like any other, a shadow fell across the drain. Not from a car, not from a threat, from a person. Someone had finally seen her, but what they saw would break their heart and change everything. The morning sun had just begun to rise, casting long shadows across the pavement as the world slowly came alive. Rush hour wasn't far off, and the growl of engines was already echoing through the street. Amidst this urban clamor, the mother dog curled tightly around her pups, shielding them from the growing heat and chaos of the world outside their fragile shelter. She hadn't eaten in days. Her fur, once a rich shade of brown, was matted with grime and dust. Her ribs showed through her thinning coat. Her eyes, half-lidded and heavy with exhaustion, still darted at every sound. A footstep, a car door, a cough. She didn't rest. Not really. Not since that near-death moment when one of her pups had rolled into the street. Her body was a wall, her spirit unbreakable. Then it happened. A hum, not like the usual motorcycles or beat-up cars. This was different, deeper, smoother, controlled. A luxury sedan, black and spotless, slowed as it approached the storm drain. Its tires whispered against the pavement, not screeched. The mother dog stirred, not with panic, not yet, but with alertness. She didn't bark. She simply watched. The car rolled to a complete stop a few feet away. The windows were tinted, but soon the driver's door opened with a soft, expensive click. A man stepped out, clean-cut, neatly shaved, business suit, polished shoes that looked like they'd never touched anything but office floors. The kind of man people expected to ignore suffering on the street. The kind who didn't have time for stray animals. But he didn't rush. He stood still for a long second, then another. His gaze dropped to the mother dog, and then to the storm drain, where the pups were barely visible under her. The honking began almost immediately. A car behind him brayed its horn. Another zipped around, cursing as it passed. But he didn't move. His brow furrowed. His mouth twitched, not in disgust, but in disbelief. Maybe he was remembering something. A pet from childhood. A regret from years past. A promise made to someone who once loved animals. Whatever it was, it rooted him there. The dog didn't growl. She didn't bare her teeth. She simply watched him. He took a single, cautious step forward. The dog flinched. He froze. Another car zipped by, but he crouched slowly, removing his suit jacket and folding it carefully, placing it on the ground like a peace offering. His shirt sleeves were crisp and white. His watch gleamed, but his hands were steady, open-palmed, non-threatening. From the car center console, he retrieved a half-full water bottle. He unscrewed the cap, and instead of pouring it on the ground, he tilted it into his cupped hand. He stretched that hand forward, inch by inch, holding it just beyond the concrete slab where the dog lay. She sniffed. Her nose twitched. She looked at the water, then at him. Finally, she leaned in and licked. It wasn't much, just one lap, but it was enough. She trusted him, just for a moment. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging something sacred had happened. He backed away slowly and pulled out his phone. His voice was calm but urgent as he spoke into it. He described the location, the dog, the pups, the traffic, the danger. He stayed on the line. Then another honk. But this one wasn't angry. A small white van pulled up behind his car. its side emblazoned with the logo of a local animal rescue. The driver stepped out, young woman, ponytail, gloves, a gentle smile. She approached the businessman, and he pointed toward the dog. They exchanged words, quick, to the point. The woman grabbed a soft carrier. Another rescuer followed with a towel-lined box. But it wasn't easy. As they approached, the mother stood. She blocked the entrance to the drain with her body. She didn't growl, but her stance was clear. Stay back. The businessman knelt again. He whispered something. No one heard the words. Maybe he wasn't even speaking to the dog. Maybe to himself. Then he reached forward, gently placing his folded jacket inside the box. She looked at it, then at her pups, then at the strangers, and for a long, still moment, time paused. The city around them moved on, cars honking, people walking, but right there, in that tiny bubble, everything stopped. Finally, with visible hesitation, she took a slow step forward, then another. She looked back at her pups. The rescuers moved fast. One gently scooped up the pups, 7 tiny bodies squirming and squeaking, and placed them in the towel-lined box. She didn't attack. She didn't resist. She just watched. When the last pup was safely inside, the businessman stepped back, giving her space. And then she followed. Not with confidence, not with ease, but with surrender. She climbed into the van on her own, curling her body around her pups. Once more, the woman closed the van door. The engine hummed to life. The businessman stood there a while longer, watching them disappear into the traffic. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He simply turned, retrieved his now dusty jacket from the ground, and slipped into his car. The world around him never noticed what had just happened, but something had changed. For the dog, for her pups, and maybe, just maybe, for him too. Because sometimes, the biggest moments don't come with fanfare or applause. They come in the quiet stillness of a single act of kindness. And that was the moment everything began to turn. At the shelter, the air was warm and smelled faintly of soap and puppy breath. Volunteers moved gently, speaking in soft voices. It was a far cry from the dust, the noise, and the raw cruelty of the street where hope had once fought just to survive. This place was clean, calm, and above all safe. The moment they arrived, the staff sprang into action. The puppies, one by one, were lifted from the box lined with the businessman's jacket. Each of them cried softly, blinking up at unfamiliar faces and lights. Their tiny bodies trembled, malnourished but alive. The vet checked their weight, their temperature, their heartbeat. Underweight, yes, but no broken bones, no internal bleeding, no disease. Just a mother's love, holding them together. Hope was last. She didn't growl. She didn't snap. When they approached, she only lowered her head, tail tucked beneath her. Her body was thin, too thin, and her fur was patchy, riddled with fleas and ticks. Old scars traced her legs and sides. Her paws were raw, but her eyes were what made everyone stop for a beat. Wide, tired, but still bright, still watching, still full of something deeper than fear. They named her Hope, and Hope, for the first time in weeks, let out a long, trembling sigh as she lay down on a blanket. No concrete, no shaking ground, no roaring traffic. The days passed. Food came in small, careful portions. Medication soothed the infections. Baths were slow, gentle, filled with soft praise. And something began to shift. The puppies, barely old enough to wobble, grew steadier. They started to bark, play. One tried to chew a towel and fell over himself. Another chased his siblings in circles. Life returned to them with every meal, every nuzzle from their mother. And Hope, her eyes didn't just shine now. They softened. Her body filled out. Her tail, once limp and still, started to wag. Slowly at first, unsure, but eventually with joy. People started to hear about them. A volunteer at the shelter posted a photo. Hope curled around her pups, tongue out, eyes closed in peaceful sleep. The caption read, "A mother who gave everything, now learning to receive." That post went viral. Donations came in, food, bedding, toys, and applications. Dozens of them. People wanted to help. People wanted to adopt. People wanted to see with their own eyes this miracle of survival. And every weekend, like clockwork, the businessman came back. He brought treats, toys, new collars. He learned each puppy's name. He even helped clean their pen once, rolling up the sleeves of his designer shirt without a second thought. The volunteers started calling him Mr. Miracle, but he was just a man who couldn't forget the look in Hope's eyes. One day, as the puppies grew stronger and more independent, he bent down and picked up the smallest one, a curious little girl with a crooked ear and white-tipped paws. She licked his chin. He laughed. And right then, he made the decision. He named her Bella, and he took her home. Hope watched him go, her head tilted slightly, but she wasn't left behind. 2 weeks later, a retired couple walked into the shelter. The woman's eyes were red before she even stepped through the door. Her husband carried a worn photo of their old golden retriever. They'd lost her to old age months ago. They said the house had been too quiet, too still. And then they saw Hope's story. They didn't ask for a puppy. They asked for her. When they met her, Hope stood still, unsure. The man knelt, holding out his hand. The woman whispered something no one could hear, and Hope stepped forward. Not fast, not fearful, just steady. She pressed her forehead against the woman's knee. They cried. The paperwork was signed that afternoon. Hope went home. In her new house, she had her own bed, a memory foam one, big enough to stretch. She had toys, a name tag that jingled when she walked, and a backyard full of sun and soft grass. But more than that, she had peace. She had people who didn't just feed her, but held her, who didn't just walk her, but spoke to her, who didn't just keep her safe, but made her family. Sometimes, neighbors would ask about her, and the couple would smile and say, "That's Hope. She saved her whole family once." And they weren't wrong, because Hope isn't just a dog. She's a symbol, a reminder. She's the mother who chose to starve so her children could eat. She's the guardian who stood in traffic for the smallest life beside her. She's the soul who refused to give up, even when the world tried to forget her. And now, she's the story people tell their kids. The face on a flyer for rescue donations. The name etched into the hearts of strangers who watched her fight. And when Hope didn't just find a home, she reminded us why we build them. Because in every dark alley, behind every stack of concrete slabs, there might be a soul just like hers, waiting, holding on, hoping, and maybe, just maybe, someone will stop, someone will care, just like they did for her. In a world that moves too fast, sometimes it's the ones who pause that make the biggest difference. Watch our next story to see how one small act of kindness saved an entire litter.